Imagine this for a moment. You're standing at the edge of your own life, looking at everything you've wanted, everything you've dreamed about, everything you've talked yourself into and out of 1,000 times. And somewhere deep inside, you know there's another level of you stronger, clearer, hungrier, unstoppable waiting to break through, and yet something holds you back, not because you don't want it, not because you don't care, but because motivation. Real motivation, the kind that lasts, the kind that transforms you, doesn't always show up the way you expect it to. There are two kinds of motivation in life, and the difference between them is the difference between temporary change and total transformation. The first is push motivation, that moment when you're trying to force yourself to do something. You're pushing your body, pushing your mind, pushing your willpower, pushing yourself through resistance. And everyone in this room, everyone watching around the world, knows exactly what that feels like, because push can take you far, but it always has a limit. There's a cap. Willpower drains. When you're exhausted, when you're mentally wiped out, when life just hits you a little too hard on a Tuesday afternoon, that push motivation doesn't feel as strong, and sometimes it doesn't feel like it exists at all. But then there's the other kind, the rare kind, the dangerous kind, the powerful kind, pull motivation. Pull is when there is something you want so deeply that it feels like it's pulling you forward, not forcing you, not convincing you, pulling you. Pull is when the vision of your future becomes so real, so vivid, so emotional that you can't help but move toward it. Pull doesn't care if you're tired. Pull doesn't vanish when you're stressed. Pull reaches into your chest and says, "Let's go." Pull is the energy of purpose, the energy of certainty, and it lasts longer than any willpower ever will. And I realized early in my life that if I want someone to truly change, if I want you to truly change, the goal has to be compelling. Not vague, not general, not weak, not "I want to make more money," great, here's $1, goal achieved, not "I want to lose some weight." You drop 1 pound and technically you hit the goal. Your unconscious mind checks the box and moves on. No, if you want to create a pull, the result has to be specific, powerful, emotionally charged, crystal clear. Something that keeps you awake, something that makes you move differently, something that gets into your system. But even when you have that clear result, even when you have that pull, there's still something else that will determine how you act, how you behave, how you show up. It's the state you're in, your mental, emotional, physical state. Because if you're in a frustrated state, you won't behave the same way you do when you're in a playful or energized or determined state. You know this, you've lived this, you're capable of doing the right thing, but you won't do it if you're in the wrong state. This is one of the biggest mistakes people make. They think they're failing because they don't know what to do. They think they need more information, more books, more advice. No, you already know what to do. But if you're in a lousy state, you won't do what you know. If you're in a defeated state, you won't act. If you're in a hesitant state, you won't take the leap. And you see this every day. Someone says, I know, I need to lose weight. I need to start working out. I need a diet. I'm tired of wearing these pants." And nothing happens, not because they're lazy, not because they're broken, not because they don't care, but because they're not in the state that leads to massive action. But have you ever had a moment, a real moment, where for days, weeks, maybe even years, you didn't do the thing you knew you needed to do? You avoided it, you made excuses, you got frustrated with yourself, angry with yourself, and then one day something snaps. One day you say, "Not another day, not another hour, I'm changing this now." And you take massive action. You don't think, you don't hesitate, you just move. That moment wasn't about knowledge, it wasn't about strategy, it was a shift in state. It was a state of absolute resolve, what I call a threshold moment. A moment where staying the same becomes more painful than changing. This happens in relationships too. You stay, and you rationalize, and you hope it'll get better, even though your gut knows the truth. And then one morning you wake up and finally admit, it's been painful in the past, it's painful now, and it'll be painful in the future. I'm done. And you walk away, not slowly, not with hesitation, instantly. Because when your state changes, your life changes. The same thing happens with your health. You gain weight little by little, you ignore it, you justify it, and then one day you're sick of it. You say, that's it. I'm fasting for 10 days, nothing but water. And the first day is brutal. You think it's physical, but it's mental, maybe even the second day, worst case 2.5, but by day 3, your energy skyrockets, you feel lighter, stronger, more focused, because your body isn't weighed down by digestion, but more importantly, because you stopped negotiating with yourself. That's the secret. When you fast, there's no argument in your head. When you're on a diet, it's constant negotiation. Can I have this? How about just a little? What if I skip tomorrow? All that noise. All that temptation, but when you're fasting, there's no debate. It's just water, end of story. And when there's no negotiation, you enter a state of resolve. And when you're in a state of resolve, your behavior changes radically. And radically different behaviors produce radically better results. And here's the beautiful part. We all know how to change our state instantly. There are two primary ways to do it. The first is a radical shift in physiology, the way you move, the way you breathe, the way you use your body. You cannot be depressed if your shoulders are back, your chest is open, your breath is deep, and your face is lifted. You cannot feel unstoppable if your body is collapsed, your breath is shallow, and your head is down. Your body is the fastest lever to pull, and you've got to use it. The second way is to change your focus, because focus equals feeling. Whatever you focus on, you will feel even if it isn't true. Focus on everything that's going wrong, and you'll feel defeated. Focus on what you want, what you can control, what you're grateful for, and you'll feel empowered. Your focus is steering your life whether you realize it or not, and most of us underestimate just how powerful our focus is. Driving, for example, doesn't seem like much of a sport, but if you've ever driven a race car at 125, 135, 145 miles per hour, you know it requires insane levels of focus. Every muscle in your body locks in. Every nerve is awake. Your awareness is razor sharp. It's pure adrenaline. I remember going to racing school. They put me in the passenger seat with Bob Bondurant, a brilliant trainer and one of the greatest race instructors in the world. He said, "I'm going to show you what a car can do." And I'll never forget what happened next. I strapped in, helmet on, heart pounding, and he took off. And he made that car move in ways that felt impossible. We hit speeds that made the world blur. I was certain we were going to die. At one point, we were at Laguna Seca, a track with a terrifying turn called the corkscrew. You go straight toward a wall at 125 miles an hour, and at the last possible second, you whip around it. And that's exactly what he did. We barely cleared edges that looked like they were centimeters away. My heart was slamming in my chest, and when we stopped, he looked at me calmly and said, "In 4 days, you'll be doing that." Then he introduced me to something called the spin car, one of the greatest metaphors for life I've ever experienced. He walked me over to this strange-looking car and said, "This is the spin car. This is where you're going to learn what really controls your life." I didn't fully understand what he meant in that moment. I was still trying to get my heart rate back to normal from the last ride, but he kept going. He said, "Here's how this works. You're going to be driving. I'll be sitting beside you. On my side of the car are 4 buttons. Right now you can see them, but once you're driving, you won't be able to see them at all. And whenever I choose, I'm going to push one of these buttons. When I do, the car is going to lift one of the 4 wheels off the ground. And when that happens, we're going to spin out of control in that direction." He pointed toward a concrete wall a short distance ahead. "Do you see that wall?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, trying to act calm. And then, with the most matter-of-fact tone you can imagine, he said, "If we hit that wall, one of 2 things will happen. Either the car is destroyed and you're paying for it, or we hit hard enough that we injure each other. And trust me, you don't want either of those outcomes." And then he smiled, which did not help. He continued, "So here's your job. You need to succeed. You need to come out of those spins. You need to stay alive. But remember, I don't have a brake on my side. I don't have a steering wheel. You're the only one controlling this car. He paused, looking straight into my eyes. So you're going to focus, but understand this. I pay attention better than anyone you'll ever meet. I will know the exact moment, the exact second you lose focus. And that's the moment I'll hit the button and we'll spin, and your job is to come out of the spin. What a metaphor for life. Because isn't that how it works? The world never pushes the button when you're ready. The universe doesn't wait for you to get comfortable. Life doesn't tap you lightly on the shoulder when it's time to grow. No, it waits for the moment you're distracted, when you're stressed, when you're overwhelmed. And that's when it hits the button. Suddenly you're spinning financially, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And in that moment, everything depends on what you focus on. So I asked him, what's the secret? How do I come out of a spin? He said, it's simple. So simple most people ignore it. Focus on where you want to go, not on what you fear. And even though I nodded, even though I understood the words intellectually, I didn't know it yet. Not in my bones, because sometimes we confuse understanding with mastery. We think because we can repeat the idea, we're living it. But you don't master something because you know it. You master it because you practice it, because you feel it, because you condition it until it becomes automatic. But at the time I thought, okay, I've got it. Don't focus on the wall, focus on the road. So we got into the spin car. And for me, this was a competition. I wanted to show him I could handle it. I wanted to prove myself, so I'm driving 90, 100, 110 miles an hour fully locked in, hyper, focused, determined, and part of me is thinking he's not going to catch me slipping. I'm not giving him an opening. But does life ever push the button when you're ready? Never. Because if growth only happened when you were prepared, you'd never become strong enough for the life you're meant to live. So I'm driving, laser, focused until I'm not. Because that's how it goes. You can't stay perfect forever. And at the exact millisecond my concentration dipped, I heard the click, the wheel lifted, and suddenly the world was spinning, tires screeching. The car turning violently, my body tightening, my brain screaming, and what did I do? The exact thing he told me not to do. I looked straight at the wall, because when something scares you, when you're spinning, when you lose control, your mind doesn't go to what you should do. It goes to what you fear. It goes to the thing you're trying to avoid. It goes to the danger, and that's what people do in every area of life. This is why you see someone driving a brand new Porsche down a country road completely lose control, and somehow out of an entire empty landscape they manage to hit the one telephone pole. Why? Because as the car starts to spin, their eyes lock on the pole. Oh no, I can't hit that, I can't hit that. And what you focus on, you steer toward, even unconsciously, and that's life. If you spend your days focusing on your fears, you move toward your fears. If you spend your time focusing on what might go wrong, you steer your life toward what might go wrong. If you focus on losing what you have or not getting what you want, or the worst case scenario, you are programming your brain to take you there. People rarely focus on what they want. They focus on what they fear. And fear is an incredibly powerful compass, but it only points in the wrong direction. So when that car started spinning and my eyes jumped straight to the wall, I realized something important. Understanding is not enough. You have to condition your focus. You have to train your mind. You have to build the habit of directing your attention where you want to go, not where you're afraid to go. But that's not something you master in one try. We tried it again, and again, and again, and every time he waited for the moment I slipped, because that's reality. No one warns you, no one schedules your challenges. Life hits the button on its own terms. Sometimes you're doing everything right. You're eating clean, you're working out, you're showing up, you're saving money. You're doing the work, and you don't get rewarded, not at first, because of lag time, because momentum takes time to shift. People say, I've been dieting 4 days, why haven't I lost anything? Because you've been eating like a maniac for 40 years. You think 4 days is going to fix that. You think 4 days is mastery. You think 4 days is enough to rewrite a lifetime of habits. Mastery lives in repetition, not understanding. Understanding something is the starting point. It's cognitive, it's logical, but transformation requires emotion and repetition. You've got to feel it, you've got to live it, you've got to practice it. You've got to rehearse it until it becomes part of your nervous system. So, after a dozen or so spin attempts, a dozen moments of fear, a dozen moments of correcting myself, a dozen moments of reminding myself to look where I want to go, something changed. The conditioning kicked in. The emotion was high. The repetition was consistent. And suddenly, when he pressed the button, my mind no longer turned toward the wall. Instantly, not slowly, not hesitantly, instantly, my eyes snapped to the open road. To where I wanted to go, and the car caught. Every time. It didn't mean I couldn't feel the fear. It didn't mean the spin didn't rattle me. It didn't mean the danger disappeared. It meant I had conditioned a new automatic response. I had trained my focus to serve me instead of sabotage me, and then something even more interesting happened. Once the new habit was locked in, I could go faster. I could do more. I could take sharper turns. Because when you stop focusing on the wall, when you stop focusing on the fear, you unlock abilities you didn't even know you had. You start accessing parts of yourself that were always there but were blocked by hesitation, doubt, and distraction. That's life. No matter how skilled you become, no matter how much mastery you build, there will always be moments when you spin. Someone else's mistake can put you in a spin. Something unexpected in the road, an oil slick, debris can put you in a spin. Life will always have moments that catch you off guard. But the goal isn't to avoid the spin. The goal is to condition yourself to recover quickly, powerfully, and automatically. Even the greatest performers in the world, athletes, musicians, entrepreneurs, leaders, the best of the best, still practice relentlessly. They practice more than they perform. Think about that. They don't practice because they're bad. They practice because they're committed to staying great. They practice because they know mastery isn't a moment. It's a state of being. And if you want to be the best in the world at managing your own life, your emotions, your energy, your focus, your habits, it requires the same level of repetition and commitment. Because life is going to keep hitting the button. And the question isn't, will I spin? The question is, where will I look when I do? Will you look at the wall, the fear, the failure, the worst case scenario? Or will you look at the path, the result, the vision, the future you want to create? Because whatever you focus on, you steer toward.